Hello and welcome to another quick tutorial on the Go Grammar Series 2 activities. Today we're looking at Unit 4 verb groups. Now this is a little bit more complex than the last unit that looked at verbs in general. Today we're looking more specifically at verb groups. Let's go through the instructions first. Verbs, as you know, show action. They tell us when an action happens, in the past, in the present, or in the future. So it's really going to give us the tense. An example here reads, I watch the game. That's present tense. You watched the game is past tense. He will watch the game is future tense. There are two main forms of a verb. There is a finite verb. This is a verb that has a subject. For example, he dances. The girl played the guitar. The non-finite verb, called the infinitive, you can work out the infinitive by asking what verb goes after the word to. And examples include to go, to hear. Even further to that, some tenses are formed using an auxiliary verb, such as is, are, was, were, has, have, had, could, will, and would. Verbs that have two or more parts, including an auxiliary verb, are called verb groups or compound verbs. These verb groups often use the present participle, the form of the verb that ends in ing and fits the space I am something. For example, I am watching you. The past participle, the form of the verb that fits in the space I have something. So for regular verbs, the past participle is formed by adding the ed at the end. So we would have I have watched you. So that would go there. However, there are many irregular verbs in English, and some examples include I have come, I have seen, I have done, I have lost. And these are irregular verbs because they don't fit in essentially our rules here. Alright, let's see how we go with some of these activities. This first one's pretty straightforward, and you can see that the activity is actually giving you a lot to work with already. We need to complete the table, and the first row has been done for us. So we're trying to fill in the present tense verb. We're going to fill in the present participle, the past tense version, and the past participle. So the first one for present tense is go, and we know that the past tense of that is went. And the present participle is going, because it's got the ing ending to go. Now, we can't just add the ed on went. We know that the past participle of went is gone. So sometimes they're simple, sometimes they're not. If we have a look at the next one, it's probably a little bit more clear. The present tense is stop. The present participle, if we add the ing, it becomes stopping. Past tense is stopped, and we know that the past participle is also stopped. As you go through, you'll notice that you get less and less information, so you've got to work more of it out for yourself. But once you understand the patterns, and particularly if you know your past tense verbs, you'll be fine. Before you can move on with the next set of activities, there's a little bit more information that you require. Verb groups can be used to form the tense of verbs, showing at what time an action is happening. Examples include I am working now, present time. I will work tomorrow, future time. I was working yesterday, past time. Note that in English there are several different ways of expressing the sense of future. For example, I am going to phone you later. Tomorrow we work from 9 to 5. You need to consider meaning rather than the form of the verb. So in these examples you probably need to look at the whole sentence, not just locate the verb and guess. You need to work out what the whole sentence is trying to communicate. Let's have a look at the next activity. Question 2. Write present, past or future in the space after each of the sentences below. So really all you're doing is trying to work out the tense that's used here. For the first one, I expected an answer last week. We know that this is in the past tense because it's something that should have already happened. So go through and see if you can label each of those correctly. Before you can do the next activity, which is the last one for this section, that take it further, there's probably some more information that you need to run through. Participles are not always part of a compound verb. For example, fiddling with the keys, she struggled to open the door. When using a participle in this way, you must ensure that it relates clearly to the subject of the sentence. So here, if we look at this part here, fiddling with the keys, we understand that it is she performing this action. Let's look at the next example. Quietly waiting in the kennel, she discovered her runaway dog. Who, she or the dog? This should be written as, she discovered her runaway dog quietly waiting in the kennel. There is no possible confusion in the sentence written in this form, but when it's written like this, it's uncertain. Quietly waiting in the kennel, she discovered her runaway dog. We don't know if it's the dog or if it's her waiting in the kennel. So that's why you need to consider how you use your compound verbs in these sorts of instances. Let's have a look at your activity. The task requires you to underline participles in the following sentence. Now the first one is pretty straightforward. Screaming, she ran to the child's rescue. So just like in the first sentence, it's the portion before the comma, and the participle is the screaming here. See if you can go through and locate or underline the participles in each of the sentences below. Well, that about wraps it up for unit number 4. Hope it helps. Good luck with the activities. I hope you're studying up for your first test. This is an ETV production brought to you by Prindiville Catholic College.